Hello. 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 Hello.
Sup internet, Raggedy Adams here. So it's been a while since I was last on here properly, and yeah, so sorry about that. Lots to talk about. One of the reasons that I've not been doing a lot of stuff, even though it's the summer and I'm off from university for the moment, is I've been kind of busy preparing to go to Sonosphere. So whilst I'm shooting this in the past, chances are when you see this I am going to be at Sonosphere Festival, which is taking place in Nebworth over the 4th of July weekend. So if you can't reach me, that's why, because I'm in the middle of a field, probably, hopefully not, but possibly covered in mud, and listening to the likes of Gary Newman and The Prodigy and Metallica and Iron Maiden. So fun. And it'd be nice to go this year because for a combination of bad timing and poor planning, I wasn't able to go to either Sonosphere Festival or its older brother Download Festival at all, because I couldn't get the money together and we couldn't get transportation, and I ended up needing to work and so on and so forth. There were a whole bunch of reasons why I couldn't do it last year, but that's okay, because instead I got to work on a film set doing behind the scenes video, and I got a summer job, the first job I had in the better part of 4 or 5 years, that wasn't walking miles and miles doing door to door, so no complaints there. I haven't forgotten about doing the 5 films tag. I specifically asked Mikola to tag me in order to give me an incentive to do it. I still haven't done it yet. I'm so sorry, Mikola. I'm so bad. I'm so sorry. It's not that I haven't been thinking about it. My list is tentative. I've got at least 3 out of the 5 locked down. I've just not had the time to properly do it justice. I think it's better for me to wait until I'm sure than to try and force it. I was hoping to do it about a week or 2 ago when I was staying over with my parents, but that ended up not happening. So, sorry, Mikola. It will happen. I swear it will happen. Hopefully before September. Knock on wood. I did, however, make time to see The Fault in Our Stars at the cinema. And I'm not ashamed to say that manly tears were shed. Very surprised by the performances. Nothing bad whatsoever to say about the performances. I know that there were a few key things that were slightly different from the novel, but it's been so long since I've read it that I completely didn't notice or think that the film was worse for leaving those things out, because they kept the things that were important to it, and it still had the, you know, the kind of the gut-wrenching feelings that are in the book. And I don't cry in a lot of films. There are certain things that set me off. The Fault in Our Stars, I really had to struggle to hold it together for the last third to half of it, because it just becomes relentless, man. But, you know, well done to all involved. Really glad to hear that Looking for Alaska is moving forward with Sarah Polley, who I actually really like as an actress and didn't realise that she did directing. So, yeah, good on you. Also, if Nat Wolff does continue to have a working relationship with John Green, that's great. As much as Shailene Woodley and Ansel Elgort really did their characters justice, I think the breakout star of that film should be Nat Wolff, because the guy's just... I don't know, I just really like Nat Wolff's performance. It just made me happy and sad at the same time. He understood the getting the balance right of tragedy and comedy that is inherent to his character. So, and for any of you who read my writing over at Thor's comic column on chud.com, some of you may have noticed that it's been a bit inactive recently. There is a reason for that. And whilst I feel a little about talking about this on here, and I will totally cut this out if, you know, my editor says, like, no, don't put it in there. Having said that, who's going to really care? One of the things that has been going on recently is that the guys over at Thor's Comic Con, my editor Jeb and some of the other guys, have managed to possibly secure us a move to Bleeding Cool. It's going to continue to be Thor's Comic Column, but it's going to be swapping over from Chud to Bleeding Cool, and we're hoping that that's going to reinvigorate the column and put a little bit of extra life into what's going on there, because whilst I do love going on Chud and it's still one of the top websites that I search for, sometimes you've just got to know when it's time to move. And that being said, I'm very optimistic about the move. I've already got 2 reviews under my belt, one of which is for a new release by Warren Ellis and Kelly Sue DeConnick, and a second one which is a retrospective review of something that Warren Ellis wrote for Hellblazer back in the 90s. It's kind of a controversial storyline because it was about high school shootings in America, and basically it got cancelled because of the events at Columbine High School. I'm actually quite pleased to sort of say to you that I sent this article to Mikla, to Michael Markman, and his response to my review was, well, you owe me $10 because I bought it. So, there you go. I hope I didn't oversell it. But one of the things I learned from talking to Mikla about comics and this comic in general was that he wasn't overly familiar with a lot of comics. Some people are, a lot of people aren't. It's still a very niche kind of topic. So in response to that, and because comics are kind of my thing, I basically decided that I was going to come up with my top 5 recommendations for comic books. Just as a little disclaimer here, this is not my saying what are the top 5 best comics ever. This is me saying what would I recommend to someone who has never read any comics before. What are the ones that are the most accessible to an audience that has never read anything comic book related? So here are my top 5 comic book recommendations. Starting with number 1, Transmetropolitan. As a fan of Hunter S. Thompson, naturally I'm predisposed towards a comic series that can best be described as Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in the world of Blade Runner or Futurama. Pick it up if you're interested in Warren Ellis's brand of acid wit and political and journalistic savvy, but keep reading it for Derek Robertson's brilliant artwork, which has so many little Easter eggs and fine details. Number 2, Batman The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. One of the reasons I got back into reading comics in my teens and during college was The Long Halloween and its sequel Dark Victory by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Jeff Loeb has written so many things over his career. He started off his career writing the scripts for the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Commando and for the original Teen Wolf. And in addition to Long Halloween and Dark Victory, he's also written the Batman Hush storyline. as well as co-creating Red Hulk and Sam Alexander's version of Nova for Marvel. Loeb's script and Tim Sale's art combined elements of conventional comics writing and clever visual and textual callbacks to cinema and literature. And it's not surprising to me at all that The Long Halloween was highly influential on the recent Nolan trilogy of Batman films. Number 3, The Crow. If you enjoyed the Alex Proyas-directed, Brandon Lee starring film The Crow, but haven't read its original source material, I highly recommend it to anyone. It not only is a marvel of pen and ink and penciled angst by writer-artist James O'Barr, who was inspired by his own grief for the loss of his fiancée, it's also responsible for introducing me to Peter Murphy and Joy Division a good 10 years before everyone started wearing Unknown Pleasure t-shirts. Number 4, The Boys. Originally stationed at Wildstorm Comics before it was moved to Dynamite because of its depiction of superheroes, Garth Ennis' series is about a CIA-backed Black Ops team that is set up in order to police, neutralize, and in some cases kill superheroes when they get out of control. In my opinion, it's the first comic I've read that truly goes further than the original deconstructionist superhero polemic, Alan Moore's Watchmen, by not merely asking what if superheroes were real, but asking instead, what if superheroes caused 9/11? And finally, number 5, Batman Superman, number 26. Now, the first 25 issues of Batman Superman were written by Jeff Loeb, and there was a rotating cast of artists including Ed McGuinness, Pat Lee, Michael Turner, Carlos Pacheco, and Ian Churchill. But for the 26th issue, it was originally going to be written by Jeff's son, Sam. However, sadly, he died at the age of 17 on June 17th, 2005, after a 3-year battle with cancer. And the issue was supposed to be Sam's DC writing debut and was to be illustrated by Pat Lee, and sadly, that plan fell through. However, in tribute to Sam, a whole bunch of artists and writers, as well as Jeff himself, worked on the issue, scripting and penciling the individual pages, including all of these people. And the reason that I picked this particular comic, as opposed to any of the many honourable mentions which you're probably going to see scrolling up the screen during this bit, rather than picking any of those, I picked this issue because it was one of the first individual comics that I became emotionally attached to as a story. Basically, the story as scripted is a side story involving Superboy and Robin. Now, at the time when this had came out, DC had done a company-wide event called Infinite Crisis, and at the end of Infinite Crisis, Superboy, Connor Kent, dies. He sacrifices himself in order to save not just Earth, but all of existence. And the issue acts as both a eulogy to the character of Superboy, but also as a way for Jeff Loeb and the many people who Sam had befriended in the industry, including Joss Whedon, who, along with John Cassaday, were given a free pass by Marvel to work on this book, even though they were locked into an exclusive contract and were working on Astonishing X-Men at the time. It just shows that even though Sam was only around for a very short period of time, he was loved quite widely by, a lot of people. And it's one of the last things that Jeff Loeb has worked on that I've really had a deep personal connection to. And that's why it is significant to me. And that is why I would recommend, if you can find it on eBay or in a local comic book shop, if you have one that's, close to you, look for Batman/Superman. You'll recognize it. It's the Superman logo on the Bat logo. You can't miss it. Number 26. So yeah, those are my 5 recommendations. I'm sure there are loads of others that I could reel off the top of my head. There are so many that I really love, but if I had to pick 5 and stick to them, I think that's not a bad list. So that's what I've been doing myself. Hopefully I will get back to you with updates on how Sonosphere went, and I hope whatever you're doing for the rest of your summer, you really enjoy yourself. If I don't see you before I'm back in Lincoln in September, then just don't forget to be awesome. And until we meet again, Raggedy Adams out.